power isn't about control over others. It's about having command over yourself. It's the ability to act without hesitation, speak without overthinking, and hold your ground without needing permission. This kind of power isn't loud or aggressive. It's calm, direct, and magnetic. And it begins with energy. When that energy is scattered, wasted through overstimulation, constant release, and endless distraction, you feel tired, uncertain, and reactive. But when you start retaining, your system begins to rebuild. Hormones regulate, your focus sharpens, and your nervous system steadies. From that foundation, true psychological power emerges. Not the kind that needs to be seen, but the kind that others quietly respond to. Abundance begins when your energy stops leaking. Retention activates parts of you that were dulled by exhaustion. Creativity returns. Your ability to plan, speak clearly, and act with timing improves. The world doesn't just change around you. You begin noticing things you once ignored. Opportunities seem to multiply, but they've always been there. What changed was your clarity. Retention clears the fog. It strengthens the prefrontal cortex, stabilizes dopamine, and calms the limbic system. These shifts make you consistent, and consistency builds trust with yourself and others. That trust leads to movement. That movement attracts value, and that value is the root of both abundance and power. Section 1: Behavioral Output. Power isn't just a mindset, it's biology backed by fuel. Every action you take, from solving a problem to lifting a weight, is powered by ATP, adenosine triphosphate. This molecule is the energy currency of your entire system. And semen production. It costs more ATP than most people realize. Creating just one drop of semen pulls from your body's most precious resources: zinc, selenium, vitamin B12, and massive amounts of cellular energy. Your body prioritizes this process, treating it as essential for survival. But when ejaculation happens frequently, the cost is high. Your brain, your muscles, and your drive begin to feel the consequences. The effects of that drain aren't always obvious at first, but over time you'll notice a steady erosion of focus, clarity, and output. It becomes harder to stay sharp, harder to stay consistent, and harder to act when action is needed. That's not a motivation issue. That's a fuel shortage. Your neural system, starved of ATP and key nutrients, slows down. The result is brain fog, fatigue, a mind that jumps from thought to thought without landing anywhere solid. In this state, you stop building, you start reacting. And that reaction-based living keeps you locked out of real power. Retention flips this equation. By holding onto your energy, you stop the constant depletion of critical molecules. Zinc gets preserved, ATP gets recycled more efficiently, and suddenly, the energy that was being funneled into reproduction gets redirected toward cognition, strength, and execution. Your body stops running on survival and starts operating on precision. The change isn't just felt, it shows. You respond quicker, speak with more control, and follow through without the usual mental noise. That's the behavioral output shift retention creates. The same energy that once got wasted becomes the foundation for visible, tangible strength. This is where the connection to real-world power becomes clear. High-level execution, whether it's in business, fitness, or leadership, demands consistent, high-energy behavior. It's not about doing more. It's about being fully present, sharp, and responsive in the moments that count. Retention makes those moments easier to own. Your body isn't scrambling to keep up. It's ready. And when you're ready, more often than not, momentum builds. People trust your movement. You trust yourself. That's how influence grows, not from effort alone, but from energy that doesn't fizzle out halfway through. Muscle growth, discipline, strategic thought. All of these depend on your energy systems functioning without disruption. Frequent ejaculation creates biological instability. The body keeps pausing to refuel what's being burned too fast. But when you retain, the system gets ahead of the curve. Muscles recover faster. The brain runs smoother. Actions become clean, not forced. That energy doesn't just stay hidden in your body. It becomes part of your tone, your pace, your confidence. You stop looking for shortcuts. You start mastering the long game. Retention is what fuels that difference. The truth is, the modern world has made men believe they can chase power while bleeding energy. That's false. Power needs energy, not just in flashes but in rhythm. Retention gives your body that rhythm. Your behavioral output becomes strong, steady, and effective. Not because you're trying harder, but because your biology is finally aligned with your intentions. You stop burning fuel on low-return behaviors. You start building a foundation that carries weight, and when your actions match your potential consistently, that's when people stop hearing what you say and start watching what you become. Section 2. Behavioral momentum. Every time you say no to short-term pleasure, you're building something permanent in the background: control. Not the kind that's rigid or forced, but the kind that gives you space to move with purpose. The brain rewards this restraint by strengthening the prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for long-term thinking, strategy, and self-command. It's like handing the steering wheel back to the part of you that plans, executes, and finishes. Semen retention is one of the few habits that directly reinforces this mechanism. It's not just a test of willpower, it's a rewiring of your impulse map. You start choosing what builds you, not what temporarily soothes you. Retention is hard. That's what makes it transformational. Its difficulty reshapes how you see yourself. Once you start holding the line in this area, your mind can't help but apply that standard elsewhere. You start eating differently, not just for taste, but for fuel. Your posture improves, not out of vanity, but because your body wants to reflect the strength you're developing. You speak with fewer words and more weight. The way you set goals shifts. They become clearer, sharper, timed with intention. All of this happens because you stop feeding the part of you that wanted ease and started investing in the part that builds legacy. This becomes a keystone habit, one change that alters everything else. You're not just stacking wins, you're stacking identity. And that identity starts to move on its own. You don't have to think about discipline all day. It becomes automatic. Your behavior aligns with who you've decided to be. That alignment creates speed, confidence, rhythm. You no longer have to prove you're in control. Your daily actions confirm it. The more you act with this internal rhythm, the more the external world adjusts around you. People notice, not because you've changed your clothes, but because you've changed your gravity. This is where momentum takes over. Each act of restraint fuels the next. You don't just walk into rooms. You hold space. You don't just set boundaries. You become the type of man who doesn't need to explain them. The flywheel of self-mastery is slow at first, but once it spins, it generates force. That force attracts what you used to chase. Retention isn't about denying pleasure. It's about choosing power, choosing direction, choosing the version of yourself that doesn't disappear under pressure. That version builds relationships with depth, speaks with clarity, and executes without hesitation. Eventually, the loop closes. You're no longer trying to become disciplined. You are disciplined. You're no longer managing impulses. You've outgrown them. And with every new win, the identity gets stronger. Not in theory, but in movement. Retention gives you access to this process in a way few habits can. It's not flashy. It's not always easy. But it forces a level of growth that sticks. You stop broadcasting need and start radiating certainty. And certainty is rare, so when you carry it, people move around you. Not because you demanded it, but because you earned it, one decision at a time. Section 3. Neurochemical Baseline. Your behavior is only as stable as your baseline, and most men don't realize theirs is broken. Years of overstimulation, frequent release, and dopamine abuse shift your neurochemical foundation into chaos. Prolactin stays elevated, dopamine becomes unpredictable, and testosterone loses its rhythm. That mess doesn't just make you tired, it clouds your judgment. You start misreading situations. You either freeze when you should act or overreact when silence would have done more. Retention begins correcting this imbalance. Lower prolactin, higher testosterone, and steady dopamine create a new internal state, one that doesn't depend on adrenaline to feel alert or validation to feel valuable. This new baseline changes how you process risk and reward. You're no longer chasing every impulse. You weigh it, you measure it, you begin making cleaner decisions, not rushed by ego or distorted by anxiety. In business, negotiation, or leadership, this clarity is everything. Most people either play too small or fake aggression to hide fear. But when your neurochemistry is balanced, you don't need to pretend. You can take calculated risks without emotional noise. You escalate when it's time to assert, and you hold your frame when being tested. That's what people feel, even if they don't know the science behind it. What they see is what matters: controlled boldness, not the loud kind. not the performative type that burns out after one confrontation. Real power is the ability to act without flinching and to wait without collapsing. Retention builds this ability by stabilizing your chemistry. It gives you internal fuel without the crash. You stop seeking permission. You stop defending your position. You move with intent because your nervous system no longer treats the world as a threat. You can lead without barking, influence without forcing, and when pressure comes, you hold your ground, not because you're trying, but because your system is built to stay there. This is the biological posture of power. Not a title, not a look, but a steady presence. Retention doesn't just give you energy, it gives you the ability to carry it well, to stay calm when others panic, to strike when others hesitate, and to know that your edge comes not from what you say, but from how little you need to say it. The more balanced your chemistry, the more naturally authority flows from you. Not loud, not forced, just undeniable.